Miss Idaho Potato relaxes in a mountain of potatoes in Idaho in 1935. Hitler takes a stroll on the Berghof terrace in Germany in 1941. Searchlights light up Gibraltar during air raid practice in 1942. Clint Eastwood on the set of his first directed film, Play Misty For Me, in 1971. Mongolian People's Army soldiers at Khalkin in Mongolia in 1939. The Argentine battleship ARA Rivadavia arrives at the New York dock in 1913. American infantrymen seek cover in Itri town square, Italy, under enemy fire in 1944. Sergeant Benedict Borostowski mans guns on the Boeing B17 Flying Fortress in 1943. A smiling South Korean soldier reads a letter during the Korean War in 1953. 22nd IPC commanders synchronize watches before D-Day in Oxfordshire in 1944. A sharecropper's daughter in Lauderdale County, Mississippi in 1935. Commuters read about John F. Kennedy's assassination in 1963. Ho Chi Minh visits Biarritz, France in 1946. A biplane flies low over Washington, D.C. in 1910. NASA mission control during the Apollo 10 mission in Houston in 1969. Future Pope John Paul II kayaks in Poland in 1955. Ottoman Turkish troops attack a British trench in Anzac Cove in 1915. Crowds gather after anti-Serb riots in Sarajevo in 1914. A U.S. Navy TDN-1 drone takes its first flight near Naval Air Station Traverse City, Michigan, in 1943. A Soviet pilot poses in front of a downed German Ju-87 dive bomber in the Murmansk region in the 1970s. Daily struggles in the Somme trenches, France, in 1916. Rat Hector, the first French cosmonaut, in 1961. James Garner, Marlon Brando, and Diahan Carroll at the March on Washington in 1963. The first wave of marine landing craft approaches Iwo Jima beaches in 1945. A British Columbia Provincial Police Constable with a Smith & Wesson model in 1939. A shamisen maker with a customer in Japan in 1909. David Bowie with Ronnie Spector and Iggy Pop in 1976. One-piece swimsuits resembling gowns emerge in the 1940s. Obeish the hippopotamus brings joy to the London Zoo in 1852. Portrait of a girl with a hat and chalkboard on St. Thomas Island in 1910. Women's fashion in 1910's Chicago, featuring contrasting dress styles. A bustling Atlantic City beach scene from 1908. Troops of the Eight-Nation Alliance photographed in China in 1900. A family at a Washington tent camp in 1861. A mother holding a child with two others beside her in 1905. An unidentified Maori woman with Chinmoko in New Zealand in the 1890s. Various images showcasing people and food spanning 1910 to 1975 in different locations. Margaret Ann Neve, born in Guernsey in 1792, lived through 3 centuries in Guernsey. A joyful father and son posing for a photograph in 1910. One of the first photographed women captured in 1841. Vintage images of people and food spanning 1910 to 1975 in various locations. A Civil War veteran with grandchildren in Mount Pleasant, Pennsylvania, around 1900. Children on a porch in Keene, New Hampshire, around 1910. A great geisha after washing her hair before styling in Japan around 1905. portraits of Pawnee people in Oklahoma in the 1880s. A father and his 4 daughters enjoying the snow in 1904. Frederick Fleet, the Titanic lookout, photographed in 1912, later serving in World Wars. Studio portraits of little boy Kenneth Handley in Wellington, New Zealand, in 1910. A market scene at Wentworth Street, Spitalfields, East London, in 1908. Etiquette warnings before silent movies in theaters during the 1910s. Laundry Day on the ice of Braviken Bay, Baltic Sea, in Sweden in 1908. The first ever underwater photograph taken by Louis Bouton at a depth of 164 feet in 1899. Young shrimp picker Manuel, 5 years old, surrounded by oyster shells in 1913. Soldiers atop a .45 Cal gun on the USS Oklahoma in 1919. A series of Irish photograms depicting cities and tourist attractions, sold in the 1890s. Secret street photos taken with a spy camera by a 19-year-old Norwegian student in Norway in the 1890s. A vintage football photo of Franklin College players in Ohio in 1907. A relaxed man from North Dakota holding a cigar, wearing bib overalls in the early 1900s. Newsboys in Greeley Square, New York, 1903. Breckenridge buried under 20 feet of snow in winter 1898. Life perseveres. William Morris Grundy's 1855 photography captures rural England, distinct from city life images. Portrait of a young cowboy sitting on a chair in 1899. Snapshot of a street with houses, kids playing, telephone poles, and a horse and buggy. Strange yet modern, 1910s, early 1920s. 4 men pose for a studio portrait in Black River Falls, Wisconsin, 1900. Huge gathering of people enjoying Daytona Beach in Florida, 1904. Filipino baby and family displayed in a New York City human zoo, 1906. First surviving photograph of a woman taken in 1836. Miners crammed into a coal mine elevator, resurfacing after a day of work in Belgium, 1900. The Panama Slide at Coney Island, built in 1908, a popular attraction at the time. Stylish portrait of a Sami man from Kautokeino, Norway, 1883. Wedding portrait of Hedley Garland Wilton and Ada Beatrice Wilton Nee Collins in Wellington, New Zealand, 1904. Young man poses for a portrait in Martinique around 1900. Inventor Charles Baker and his assistant demonstrate the first friction radiator in 1906. Lady at her electric car charging station in 1912. University of Pennsylvania's football team captured in 1887. Photograph of 19-year-old Vincent van Gogh taken in 1873. Advertisement for Seaboard Airline Railway, titled Straight as a Plumb Line, from Review of Reviews in 1902. Person dressed as a violin in Philadelphia's Mummers Parade in 1917. 3 women on bicycles in Great Britain, 1898. Newcastle's Black Gate from the Dog Leap Stairs around 1889. Stylish woman walking her dog at the Bois de Boulogne in Paris, 1910. Richard Nixon photographed in Lausanne, Switzerland, probably in 1963. New Zealanders trying out a captured German motorcycle in the Western Desert, 1941. Little boy writing liar on a dentist's office wall in the 1920s. Willie Grandin and Oscar Walls held in jail for burglary and entry, allegedly shooting a friend in 1949. Infantry regiment of the Qing Imperial New Army marches over a bridge during the annual Grand Maneuvers in 1905. High school marching band walking on roads of Granada Relocation Center in Colorado, 1943. Teacher briefing the high school girls' glee club at Granada Relocation Center in Colorado, 1943. Sister Mary Kenneth Keller, first woman to earn a doctorate in computer science in the United States, 1965. Members of the colonial armed force of Imperial Germany in German Southwest Africa around 1910. Chimpanzee astronaut receiving an apple after the first successful spaceflight in the USA, 1961. Alexander Graham Bell at the opening of the long-distance telephone line from New York City to Chicago, 1892. Miss Iris Davis, a 19-year-old from Clapham, London, recovering cats from bombed houses in 1940. Thanks for watching.